When you think of Cardiff City's next wave, the new era, the next generation, the generation that could define Cardiff City's future, one name that is paramount to that is Cian Ashford. Quick feet, bright mind, and now genuine, real first team experience. But under new manager Brian Barry Murphy, is he just another promising player? Or is he a genuine breakout star waiting to happen? In this episode of The Spotlight, we're diving deep into the profile of Cian Ashford, his journey so far, his unique skill set, and why Brian Barry Murphy might be the perfect manager to take him to the next level. Let's get into it. Yes guys, I'm Si, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Cardiff City World. This is the Spotlight. This is where we look at different elements of the Cardiff City squad, different players, and we take a deep dive into where we think their season may go. Of course, we can never be sure, we can only guess, we can only go by the eye test, what we've seen, and of course, the data. But let's get on with it. So, from the youth ranks to the first team breakthrough, Cian Ashford isn't just another Cardiff Academy product. He's been one of the standout prospects for a while in the youth ranks. Born in 2004, Ashford joined the Cardiff City Academy at a young age, and he'd quietly built a reputation for being one of the most technically gifted footballers in the system. He has always played with intelligence. He hasn't got that out and out electric speed. It's not just tricks and flicks, but it's a rare sense of timing, intelligence and vision that separates him. But that also is quite often what separates the decent players to the special ones. He began the 23-24 season on the fringes of the first team, getting an opportunity towards the end of the season under Errol Bullitt. And then when the 24-25 season came around, especially post-January, but generally, this is where things got really interesting. There was injuries and inconsistencies rocking throughout this senior squad. Ashford was handed that opportunity early under Errol Bullitt, but it was really under the interim boss of Omar Rhys when he began to shine. He made 17 league appearances, including 7 starts from January. Ashford showed that he wasn't just there to make up the numbers. He brought a genuine calmness, an eye for space, a desire to link the play that was frankly sorely missing. And importantly, his understanding with fellow academy graduates like Ruben Colwell. Cian Ashford was able to slot in naturally. Same with Isaac Davis. They link up. They've got that chemistry. It's a sixth sense in certain areas. They know what each other's going to be, and that will give the Bluebirds a spark going forward. We've seen glimpses of it last season, but it's something that will only grow. For a club that's trying to reset its identity, is trying to build around youth, this sort of chemistry can really make a difference. It can really matter. But let's look at the technical profile of Cian. A playmaker, a winger. It's an interesting one. Let's break down what Cian Ashford is and what makes him quite a special talent, particularly under this manager. If you start with his technical attributes. So Ashford primarily operated as a wide player, most often, left, maybe right. A handful of appearances came at number 10 later in the season, or for an old school term, a second striker just off the main striker. But it's that versatility that is a massive asset to his game. Because make no mistake, he's really good at picking up pockets of space, cutting inside, finding and utilising his football IQ, because his decision making is very good. Yes, there was periods last year where maybe his confidence dropped a little bit and that decision making dropped. But you'd expect that in a young player. he's not your classic touchline winger. He's not going to burst past the fullback with pace. But even when he does start wide, he's constantly looking to come in those little spaces, receive it on the half term, attack that space between the fullback and the centre back. His movement is real clever. He's not explosive, as I said, but he's got a bit of a sharp acceleration, and he's got excellent close control. When you look at Y-Scout, Ashford ranks in the 84th percentile for successful dribbles per 90 minutes among under 21 championship wingers last year, averaging about 5.6 dribbles per 90 with a 61% success rate. And again, it's not flashy, but it is effective. And for someone who was finding their feet a little bit, is still young. The club is all over the place. You got interim manager. It's pretty good. FB ref data shows averaging sort of 7.2 progressive carries per 90 and 3.2 carries into the final third, which places him in the top 10% for both under 21 wingers in the championship. So it's interesting. This tells us that he's a forward who doesn't just run. He can carry the ball, but he can always break lines and connect attacks with the runners around him. And when then you look at that link-up play, particularly when he's around players and teammates that he knows where they're going to be, you can see that intuitive understanding. And that only comes from, of course, in the likes of Ruben and Isaac, is growing up in the same system, is growing up together. They move in sync, they rotate, they know where each other's going to be, they trust each other, and they trust those combinations. We, of course, would like and love to see more and more of this as this season progresses. And then you look at his vision, his IQ, decision making. And as I mentioned, his decision making suffered a little bit when he lost a bit of confidence. But again, you can't expect young footballers to just come in and perform week in, week out, make the right decision every time. They are learning. And while his technical skill set is impressive, I think what sets him apart from others, especially for someone who's as young as he is that football intelligence. And to me, that's where Barry Murphy is going to notice. Because Ashford doesn't just make a run for the sake of it. He operates, he's got this awareness and this positioning between the lines, dragging defenders out of position to create space for others to link up with the fullbacks, the midfielders, the strikers. In terms of shot creating actions, Ashford averaged 3.4 shot creating actions per 90 minutes last season, higher than any other Cardiff wide player in that period, apart from Ruben Colwell, who again you wouldn't call a wide player anyway. Crucially as well, he's generally not that wasteful. His pass completion rate in the final third, 78%. Again, that's pretty damn good, especially for a young player. That's not someone who's just spamming crosses or speculative flicks. That is a guy who's picking the right moments, when to shoot, when to pass, when to cross. He's also unselfish. He averaged 2.1 key passes per 90, registering 3 assists over his 900 championship minutes. But of course, there's things for him to work on. And like I say again, he's a young player. But when you look at it, some areas to improve. Physique, and the work rate is an interesting one, which we'll get to. So let's be clear. Cian Ashford's not a finished article. I think he's around 5'10", still relatively lightweight in terms of his physique. Doesn't probably have the physical presence to dominate duels. Y-Scout shows that his ground duel success rate sits at around 45%. And he wins just 23% of his aerial duels. But again, not something that you're particularly looking for him to do. He will need to maybe add a bit of a muscle or to get a bit bigger and learn to protect the ball a little bit more when he's under pressure, particularly in League One. These technical players are the ones who are going to get battered about a bit. Defensively, though, I think he works really hard. He had 3.6 successful defensive actions per 90 minutes. Barry Murphy's going to want defensive structure. He's going to want discipline. He's going to want better pressing angles. And that is natural for a player of Cian's age. And interestingly, when you go away from the data and you look at the eye test, with Cian, what he did really, really well last year was he'd kind of hang off, and you'd think, oh, he's out of position, or he's not tracking back. And then suddenly he'd have a burst of pace and he'd win the ball back from the opposing winger or fullback, sort of from behind, and he'd pinch it off him. And he did it, time and time again, really. He was certainly one of the better wide players from a defensive point of view in our side, because some of the others were not so good. El Ghazi offered nothing defensively. Ollie Tanner is not the best defensively. Isaac, again, does the same, but maybe that's homegrown players. They care. So this is what we should be working with. He's very clearly coachable. Even under Omar Risa, you could see the effort, the tracking back, doubling up with his fullback. So that shows that he's got a positional maturity when situations were very, very tough. Effectively and basically, he's got the right attitude. Let's look at why Brian Barry Murphy is probably the perfect manager for Cian. BBM is a manager who values intelligence over chaos, control over chaos. He wants fluidity, but he also wants structure. He wants players who can interpret space. They can receive it under pressure. They can play in intelligent rotations, especially in the final third. Ashford ticks every single one of those boxes. And think about this, right? BBM uses wide players in a very creative way, and attacking midfielders as well, particularly when he was at Manchester City. He encouraged inside movements. He encouraged third-man runs, overlaps from fullbacks, clever vertical passing. Cian Ashford thrives in that type of football, those type of moments. He is not just like a one-trick wide man where you give him the ball, he's going to do the same step over and try and make it work. The guy is super, super clever. He can be a part of the rotations. He can drift in centrally to create the space. He can play quick passes in tight areas. And he can build through the thirds if need be. But he can build through combinations as well. BBM's system, we don't know exactly what it's going to be. Could it be a 4-3-3? Could it be a 4-2-3-1? Could it even be a 3 at the back system? But ultimately, he's a manager who's going to focus on a system. And he's not going to want passengers. He's going to want footballers. Well, Cian Ashford is exactly that. He is a footballer who's disciplined and got a real ability to do things going forward and back. He's a clever one. If we look at where Cian's going to fit in Cardiff's new look attack, if you like, we'll get tactical, I guess, for a second. Look, if Cardiff are playing a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 under BBM, there are quite a few ways that he could fit in. He could go in the wide areas. His most natural fit is probably off the left, where he can cut inside onto his stronger foot, attack the half space, link with your Colwells, your Robertsons. He's comfortable between the lines, and he can play quick give and goes. He can drive into the box when defenders back off, and then he can find that final pass. And that's where we've seen him at his best. Where BBM may look to use him, there's also scope for him to go off the right. And it'll also depend on what BBM's going to want from the fullbacks. Is he going to look for one to invert and one to overlap? If he's going to look for one to overlap, maybe Cian's better on that side because he likes to drift into the half space. Maybe Isaac will be better as the one who goes round the outside with the fullback inverting behind him. There's so many different options with these young players because they are versatile. And then, of course, you've got the central option, a number 10 or a second striker, where he can drift, ghost into space, combine with a target man like Yusuf Salic, or if we're looking for a bit more pace, someone like Isaac Davis. And that's where this academy connection is really could benefit Cardiff this year. Ashford, Colwell, Davis, Bacon, who knows who else, Eli King. They've already got a natural chemistry. They know how to rotate positions seamlessly. They anticipate each other's movement. And in a BBM system, it's going to be fluid. Nothing's going to be too rigid when we've got possession of the ball. Everything is going to be built on technical and football intelligence. So that familiarity is going to be gold. Now, Cian Ashford is a real clever player, as we've mentioned. But let's have a look at the statistics, or a data snapshot, if you like. 24-25 season in the Championship. Played 912 minutes, just the 1 goal in the league, 3 assists, with 2.1 key passes per 90, 3.4 shot creating actions per 90, 7.2 progressive carries per 90, carries in the final third per 90, 3.9, successful dribbles per 90, 61% at 5.6, and a pass completion in the final third of 78%. His defensive actions per 90, 3.6. So for context, those numbers are better than the majority of the senior players in the Cardiff City squad across that same period. He wasn't just surviving, making up the numbers. He had a genuine impact. And as always, we like to discuss the culture, the mindset, the personality of the player. Cian is 100% grounded. He's a hard-working, very coachable lad. And that matters. When you're trying to reset a culture at a football club, having players like that is huge. At a time when Cardiff is trying to reset the culture, build a football-first identity, which is all about young players, you need young players with the right attitude. Ashford embodies that. He's humble but confident. He's composed under pressure. He listens and he learns. More than anything, we want young players who are going to play for a badge. And these types of personalities that BBM and his staff are going to want in this young, evolving group, Cian has got all of it in droves. Let's look at the risks. What could hold him back? So look, every young player, there's risks. You never quite know how they're going to do. And quite often after they have their breakthrough season, they can sometimes stagnate, or they can kind of plateau a little bit. But Ashford needs to find that consistency over 30 games this year. Championship defenders, of course, would have been harder to play against. But in League One, it's going to be physical, it's going to be aggressive, and that'll test his durability. He's going to have to be robust. He's going to have to get flattened and get up and get to want the ball again. He's got to be brave, and he's going to keep wanting that football. There is, of course, a risk of him getting lost in the shuffle if he doesn't quite find what we think he has in that form. But for me, I look at him and the technical ability on him, it just looks like a player who's going to be so naturally suited to Brian Barry Murphy and the way he wants to play. That structure, that clarity, that patience. Like, Ashford has finally got a platform and a manager now in an era at Cardiff where we're going to really be focusing on young players. It feels like it could be a real big season for Cian. And wrapping up with some kind of final thoughts. Cian Ashford is one of our own. Yes, he's one for the future, but he's one for the now. He showed that last year in glimpses. It isn't just about a feel-good academy story. He's a proper footballer with proper potential. He is technical, high football IQ, elite level progression stats, and a growing understanding of first team football. He links perfectly with other young talents who've come through the academy with him. He's now working with a manager who's going to focus on all these young talents, and he prizes technical ability, intelligence, bravery, and adaptability. If Cardiff City want to really build around something sustainable long term, but also something modern, then Cian Ashford is a vital part of that blueprint. as is Ruben Colwell, as is Dylan Lawler. These are technical footballers with some serious ability. It is imperative that we keep them and we build around them. He's one of our own. But more than that, he might be one of the ones. Thank you for watching this episode of The Spotlight. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of Cian Ashford? Do you think that this season he's going to really flourish under Brian Barry Murphy? Do you think the club will hold on to him? Because I'm sure there's interest. Should they ease him in slowly? Should he be an integral main part of the squad? Let me know in the comments. And as always, give me context. Don't just say yes, no, whatever. You're talking rubbish, Simon. Give me context. Tell me why. Let's have a discussion. As always, I appreciate your time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss a thing for more exclusive analysis, videos, news, live shows, and more. If you can, become a member. That's what allows us to create content 7 days a week. In the meantime, keep the faith, and I will see you in a bit.